Hot Top Sports where the takes don't miss. The prof with the stats, the champ with the fist. Water bringing fire, cowboy tie riding bold. Bulls calling bets, watch the stories unfold. And it's truly eyebrows running the show. It's Hot Top Sports, baby. Let's get it, let's go.
All right, we're back, boys and girls. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to High Top Sports. If you're wondering what's going on because you don't see the other show anymore, we had technical difficulties. We couldn't get Corey Bender in the show. So we're going to kind of recap what we talked about in a little bit. But the man of the hour is here. Corey Bender is joining us to talk about why we're all here in the first place, to discuss the saga that is happening. Corey, my man, welcome to the show, but good to see you.
No, good to see you too, man. I appreciate you having me on, brother.
Listen, absolutely, man. Usually, we talk more, I would say, in recruiting season. That's usually when we catch up and we chit-chat. We get the feels. Right now, usually isn't recruiting season, especially with the new wave of college football. But, desperate times call for desperate measures. And here we are. When I saw a Bender article come across my screen and it had some juice to it, I go, hey, we got something here. I got to chat about it.
It's that time of year, man. It's a weird situation, but like you said, it's almost like recruiting's not important, but it is important at the same time. So it's about to heat up probably again here the next week or two. It's about to probably reach another level. It's almost right now. I mean, we're kind of in that standstill until there's a move made, or it was kind of the same thing as last year before they announced that Napier was staying.
Yeah,
it was kind of like recruiting was in that middle part where like people were like watching it, but like not too engaged. But I think obviously if everything kind of goes as planned this weekend, and based off what we're hearing, I think recruiting is about to heat up again here again. Yeah,
great point about that. Last year there was that weird feeling of where the program was headed, and then Strickland drops the famous letter, and it ramped up. It had one of the most iconic finishes of recruiting in a while for anybody. Now It didn't finish at the top, but I think just the way that it finished was a great close. We had a blast covering it. I know that you did. But yeah, like right now it's kind of weird, but because of this news surrounding Napier, that it's no secret what's happening, and because of it's how many people are covering it, I think that's where all of a sudden now the recruits are starting to kind of look around, the parents are looking around, and that's where your article comes in. And it was interesting too, you kind of said, hey, if Lane does get brought in, some of these guys are so interested. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Without obviously giving away the parents' name, but yeah, no, I spoke to a few of the parents of a few commits. I know one of them. I mean, Lane Kiffin was the first one that they mentioned to me, just saying like, "Hey, that's a no-brainer. That Scott Strickland needs to make that move now." Kind of saying, without trashing Scott Strickland, they want to be polite, but they're both basically saying like, "What are we waiting for? Like, make the move with Napier. Go get this guy. At least start negotiations from behind the scenes." And that's the guy. I mean, talking to a few other commits too, they didn't want to put their names out. I mean, Lane Kiffin is the most popular pick by a lot of them. Kurt Signetti, before he did the extension with Indiana, that was another one that was brought up. But I had a few of the commits families that were saying like, hey, he's a good coach, but I just don't know if he's a Florida guy. I don't know if he's going to be a perfect fit for Florida. And, some of these people too, they're kind of connected. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Signetti up in Indiana. And some of them were hearing before the extension that, hey, he might stay put. Like, don't be surprised if he stays in Indiana. And then just a few hours later, I was talking to a parent, and a few hours later, he signed that extension. So that takes him off the table. I mean, he's a great coach. I just don't think with Florida, with where they're at. I mean, if you look at the last few hires, McElwain came from a smaller school. I mean, obviously, Billy came from a smaller school. I just think this hire has to have more juice to it. And I know Signetti obviously did a great job at Indiana. I just think he's more of a Big Ten guy. But when you guys from recruiting, really kind of bringing buzz to the program. So I just think that's the one that people are that a lot of recruits are bringing up. And I had another one mention John Gruden. That was another name that was thrown my name by a parent. So I think that's obviously unlikely. I mean, I'd be surprised if Florida went that way, but I think right now the popular choice, at least among 4 or 5 commits families, is Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss.
I mean, look, there's a lot of things about it because we've always talked about like Lane and what he would do for Florida and just his ability to recruit here. Obviously, and this is only driving his price up too as we talk about it. Let's be honest. We were just talking on the last show before we got kicked off was they mentioned possible contract. They're trying to do what Indiana did. That's what the Ole Miss sources were saying, that they want to try to lock him in, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
He's a hot commodity. So that was, I think, reassuring. What I liked to that the fact that, again, when I see those recruits that you're referring to are current commits to Florida, like, hey, we're all in if this guy comes, meaning that we're, and this is where I think Napier has done a good job of going after guys that are buying into the culture and what Florida has to offer as a whole, not just the coach itself. And that, now obviously Lane is still a hot topic, but then we're not just going to jump ship because of this.
100%. I think he's one of the rare coaches that if you hire, you could probably keep most of the class together. I think either way with a coaching transition, I don't think you're going to keep everyone. That's just the, how it works with recruiting. You might have a few kids that might like the Lane hire, but maybe there's a school like Davion Gross comes to mind, right? The wide receiver out of Texas. That was a surprise commitment over the summer where Oklahoma was obviously leading for a while, then Florida edged him out. I can see, like, I'm not just using him for example. He's like a guy that comes to mind where he might be excited by a Lane Kiffin hire. I haven't talked to him or anyone in his family, but Oklahoma, with how they're playing, they've had a decent year. They lost to Texas obviously recently, but that was the school he nearly picked. So that I could see a kid like that have that type of fallback option. So hey, if I'm not going to go to Florida, maybe I can go to Oklahoma. But when you look at guys like a Chancellor Campbell, a Will Griffin, guys like that from the state of Florida, especially late in the process too, man. I mean, signing days at the beginning of December, some of these kids are going to be excited. I mean, you have a few kids wanting to take visits, just to have backup plans. But I think Lane Kiffin is one of the few guys where you're pretty familiar with his personality. Some of these kids were being recruited by Lane at Ole Miss. Like Will Griffin got an offer by Lane Kiffin early in the process, so there is some familiarity. I think a lot of kids would be comfortable with that hire. Where I think overall, I mean, I've had a lot of fans hit me up saying, hey, listen to the commits. Like, we're talking to, Scott Strickland. Like, if this is the guy that commits want, I mean, if it didn't work out with Lane Kiffin, say Lane Kiffin comes here, I mean, Strickland would say, hey, I gave you the guy you guys wanted. I hired the guy. It's not on me, basically. I hired the guy everyone wanted, and hey, it didn't work out. So I think even from Strickland's sake, give the fan base, give the recruits the guy they want. And I think right now, the consensus pick right now is Lane Kiffin from most people.
Real quick, if you guys are having audio issues, I don't know what's going on, but don't just keep putting audio. It's you got to leave the YouTube for some reason. It's not on our end. Nothing that I can do. You have to leave the thing. So don't just keep putting audio in there. Just leave the thing and come back. Leave the whole video and come back in. That's a good point too. I think because obviously, these guys up top. I feel like they don't listen to the fans at times. They kind of just put us to the wayside. But these kids, I mean, they're I mean, I don't know who. If you're Scott, I don't know who you listen to be quite honest with you. It feels they just listen to themselves. If for being frank, I think they want to win, but they want to be the smartest guy in the room. But I think your players are somebody you should always listen to. And if you're looking at, okay, if these same kids and here's the things that he's credited Napier for: the culture, the things surrounding Florida. Well, if all the guys that Billy is going after are still saying, hey, we'll come if Lane comes, well, then you're still going to be going on that same path that you've been trying to accomplish and achieve. Now, will Lane want those kids? That's the other part that people don't understand. If you got to keep in mind, a lot of things that we talk about is like, hey, how do we retain the current roster? Who leaves? Who stays? Who would you want to stay? That's always a big question. If Lane comes, I think a pretty good piece of this roster would stay intact as well too, which is the big thing that I think as fans are wanting right second after Billy being gone.
100%. And that's a great point, man, because obviously these kids are 4-star recruits, but it doesn't mean it's a guy that Lane will want. I think like a Will Griffin, you always need a quarterback in the class. The kid's a diehard Gator. I think he's one of those guys that you probably would keep in the class. I'd be surprised if not. I just think overall the senior year he's having, I think that's a guy, even for your locker room, he's just one of those guys you kind of want in your program if you're a Florida Gator head coach. So, but I think, you look at when Billy came by, like Jaden Gibson, who obviously signed with Oklahoma, that cycle when Billy Napier came in, that's a guy that you thought would have been a no-brainer to kind of stay in the class. Napier, if you remember, was like, hey, send me practice film or send me clips of, let me see what type of player you are. Nick Evers, the quarterback. It's the same type of thing. Guys that you thought that maybe would have been in the class when Napier came on board, they weren't in the class. But I think when you look at it, I think with Florida, I think Chancellor Campbell's another name. I like Georgia's after him. He's a high upside 6'8" offensive tackle. I think Tyler Chakeem, the other offensive tackle from the state of Georgia, I think he's an elite prospect who, in my opinion, should probably be ranked even higher. I think he could be a multi-year starter. I think Florida has a lot of those guys in the class now that if I'm Lane Kiffin or any other coach coming in, I think you would definitely highly consider, keep him in the class. And I think now in recruiting too, it's one of those things. If it doesn't work out in today's age in college football, you can go in the portal and obviously you don't have to sit out. So there's really not a huge risk of if you want to keep these guys in the class compared to when Napier came about a handful of years ago. So I think overall Florida, I think Kiffin, there might be some guys in the class that you look at that maybe he does part ways with, but I think a lot of the kids, I think any coach would probably want to keep them in the class, especially for a transition class.
There's something important to note too. Like, again, this class being retained is going to come down to when that coach is hired. And that could play a huge factor too. Look, and that's a big thing of, if we want Lane, do we want him to lose? We cheering for Georgia this weekend. Those are all things that to take into consideration. I don't know how you can answer this with obviously being a writer. Are you able to can you say who you want? Are you able to talk like that, or do you kind of have to keep it professional? Is that, I don't know how that works.
As far as what? What do you mean? Just my opinion?
I guess let me get into that. What is your feeling on this Napier news? How do you feel with the news that's, again, I don't know how much you can speak to it. I assume you can. I don't know. But
oh yeah, I don't give a shit, dude. No, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
no. As far as like my opinion on the whole entire thing, I thought personally it's tricky because this weekend, say if Florida beats Mississippi State, I have Florida winning. You don't often see a university part ways with a coach after a win.
Yeah.
And I think you can only really blame Florida for that. I think they've had opportunities to move on. After the A&M game, you probably could have moved on after the Miami game. USF, it was obviously a shitty loss. It was a stinger, but it's so early in the year. Maybe they bounce back. So, you really have no one to blame but Florida as far as like that awkwardness of like kind of being a laughing stock of like, hey, we're going to fire a coach after a win. But I think personally, man, I just think when you look at, Napier's a great guy. Like I said, as far as a person, I don't have a personal like relationship with him. But when it comes to football, you look at the overall record, it's just not up to Florida standards. So like my opinion, I think it happens. I just think this weekend, I think they do eventually pull the plug at some point. It just, my biggest question is it definitely going to be this weekend? Like all the buzz is saying, part of me thinks, do you really pull the plug after a win? Zach Alberti and I were talking about that. And it's just like, it's hard to see with Florida. They didn't do it after a loss. So it's like the proof is in the pudding with them. They're going to do it after a win. So I'm so torn on it. But I think the other thing too, like you said, keeping this class together, if Lane Kiffin, say if it's Ole Miss, they win all throughout the season, they finish good. And then a lot of these kids are signing at the beginning of December. So you might be even though some of these kids want to play for Lane Kiffin, time's going to be clicking as far as when they, like you said, when Florida hires a coach, do you wait to the second sign day to actually ink and make sure you're making the right choice? So it's going to be tricky, man, because of how Ole Miss is playing. Yeah, because they can go far. They can go far this year. So it's like some of these kids might end up elsewhere just because of the timing, not because they don't want to go to Florida, but they need to know where they're going for their own, for their own case.
So you feel like he's gone. That's your feeling.
I think obviously
with the buzz that you've been obviously hearing the same situation. Now, from a personal preference, are you wanting Lane to be at Florida? Is that what you would feel is the best option too? Are you kind of in that camp of like it's got to be a splash? You're kind of alluding to that earlier.
Yeah, I think you have to get this one right, man. I really do. I think. Like you said, you get McElwain, you get Billy, guys that had a lot of buzz, but come from smaller schools. When you're Florida, I just think you need to make a more sexy hire as far as that sure name, a guy. It's Florida. You're the lone SEC school in the state of Florida. You should be able to attract a top name, So I think overall Lane would be my number one. I think behind him, maybe Marcus Freeman.
Okay.
He would be. And the thing is with Marcus Freeman, I'm a big fan of him. I said this on my message board, and some people crucified me for this, but like I said, like he doesn't really have that fire for me. Like, and I'm gonna give a comparison. Like James Franklin, right? He got fired, so obviously he's out. I just don't see Florida hiring a coach again just got fired. But like when I see Franklin, he has that fire. Like there's something in him. He's a big competitor. Where when I kind of see Marcus Freeman, I kind of see more of that passive type where he's kind of. I just don't know as far as Florida. I think he'd be good, but I think there might be better fits. I'm actually, a lot of people disagree with me as far as a backup candidate. I'm a fan of Drinkwitz at Missouri. I think overall, I know people are like, it's Missouri, but I think everyone's at that point at a job where you're not always going to be at that. Like, Dan, obviously you want like a Dan Lanning, right? I mean, he'd be a no-brainer. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
But when it comes to realistic candidates, I think Drink is kind of a high upside, kind of a high risk hire. But I think from a personality and just the way of how big of a competitor he is, I think he recruit really well at Florida.
Yeah.
But he would be kind of like more backup option for me. So I would do Lane, Marcus Freeman, and maybe even Drink at like third or fourth. I mean, it's hard. I don't even think it's that deep of a coaching board right now. It's not the best, in my opinion, it's not the deepest year as far as like coaching candidates, because Signetti was on everyone's wish list. But for me, from the get-go, I thought he was more of a Big Ten guy. I just didn't think
Agreed.
for Florida. I think he could have done well, but I just think recruiting and stuff, he just seems good where he's at, like a Penn State, Indiana type.
He was never leaving. He just seems like a type like kind of he just stuck in his ways. I don't hate your take on the Freeman. I get where you're coming from with the fire aspect of it. He's not throwing a clipboard and throwing a hat like Lane Kiffin would. He's not the same, like he's not monotone like Billy though. He's a killer. It's just it's like Michael Myers. Like the mask doesn't move. You don't know what. It's just he's just there to kill somebody and leave. Point. Like that's and 100%. So I think that's maybe where people are a little like he has a killer in him. He just doesn't express it like the other coaches do. Yeah. And look, I think we like that as Florida fans. We like a little bit of craziness on the sideline. Honestly, I just want you to win the damn football game. I don't care how you are, but I like.
Well, let me ask you this: if Franklin didn't go on this losing streak, they're playing Oregon several weeks ago, almost competing for the number one spot. At that time, would you have thought Franklin would have been a good candidate for Florida?
No, I never liked Franklin. I've never personally have not liked Franklin. I don't like him. He gives me a weird vibe.
No, he's definitely different, and I think too, just like seeing the way he kind of interacts at press conference, he's a different dude. No, he's definitely different. It's just for me when I look at this year's candidates, the ones that are realistic, like Dilly over at Arizona State. I like him a lot, but that's kind of a high. I just don't know if he's ready for a Florida type job yet. I think he has so much upside and ceiling. I think he could be a tremendous head coach at Florida. But it's like, do you make that move? I think this is the one you have to get right, and I think he's kind of more of a high risk hire, in my opinion. I
compared it to, I was talking about it's a 400-pounder jumping into the pool, right? We're talking about splashes, all right? So, like, if Marcus and Lane are the 400-pounder jumping into the pool, those are big splashes. I would put Drink, and I put Cliff Kingsbury was another one. And then there was one more name I think we talked about today. I can't remember. Kurt was in this class, too, of like the 250 jumping in. Like, it's a good splash. It's not going to overflow the pool. You're not going to talk about it after, but it'll turn some heads. Kenny Dillingham is like the 200 to 250 kind of like he can be big. I think his losses this year kind of sucked the rug from him a little bit.
100%. I agree, 100%.
But yeah, again, for sure, it's Freeman and Kiffin would make go boom. I mean, Kiffin's probably in a class of his own, if we're being honest.
100%. Yeah, I think the fan base can agree with that too. I think this year. Every year you kind of have, every time there's a coach's search, you have different opinions. But I think this time around, I think it's one of the more consensus, picks from most of the fan base. I think Kiffin is the 1A for everyone. But I said behind him, though, I mean, obviously Freeman's right there, but behind those two, that's where it gets kind of iffy for me, where it's, I mean, for Florida.
You're taking risk again.
Yeah, there's not many no-brainer picks. I mean, you would always say Dan Lanning. I know a few years ago people were saying, like rumor-wise, that Lanning kind of wanted to be back in the Southeast, that type of thing, and that'd be like a no-brainer pick. But I know I believe it when he says, I'm not interested. I'm locked in Oregon. And right now, why would you leave Oregon? I think he's in a good situation, so I don't know why you would. So it's just obviously he has the Nike backing out there with money and everything. So I just think, though, that's why I think when it comes to Kiffin and then even Freeman, you really have to go all in and just hopefully one of those guys pulls the trigger and comes to Gainesville. I think that's the way Strickland has to approach it.
In fantasy football terms, more relatable than a 400-pounder jumping in the pond. Lane and Freeman are like Jamar Chase and JJ. Like, it's a number one receiver. Who do you like better? Pick and choose.
Yeah.
The other guys, you're kind of in that Chase Brown, Jamar Gibbs. I would even put Bajan up into that upper class, but you're kind of like it just depends on what year we're working with. You know what I mean? That's just James Franklin's like a Mike Evans. He's gonna be good, but is he gonna be like he'll be there.
100%.
He'll be consistent. Yeah. He's a good pick. Is it a great pick? It's a good pick. It's like that's what it is.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, a few weeks ago, you had Kerr to Indiana. Signetti was obviously a pick for a lot of people. Franklin was kind of like, not for a lot of people, but he was on the radar. He gets fired. Signetti gets an extension. Those are two guys off the board. So that whole big board kind of shrinks. And like I was telling you before, I mean, a lot of these kids, I think 4 or 5 of them, they all told me Lane Kiffin, the families of commits. One said John Gruden. One said, "Oh my God, that would fire me up. Oh my God, please do it." That's one that
Parents or the coach or the kids?
This is to be a parent. This would be
Okay,
dad
okay.
of one of the commits. Right. And he's like, "Man, that would fire us up. That'd be one we would love." But I think out of the 6 I've talked to, 5 were Kiffin, 1 was Gruden. So I mean, but those are no one else mentioned besides those 2.
Well, how would they? And then how did they? Were they handling the Napier stuff? Like, what was? Did they comment on that? Of like, this is kind of weird, or they? I mean, they're fans themselves. Were they like, yeah, like, were they kind of like it should have happened? Were some kind of still, hey, we want to see this thing play out. We're not overbilling. Where were they at? If they talked about that at all?
Yeah, even commits. I talked to CJ Hester the other day. He said he hasn't been told anything as far as like a change is on the way. And as far as that, another commit told me they haven't even talked to Florida about it. It's almost like a subject they're not really touching on. And I mean, that's a lot of the commits are kind of. I even had a parent yesterday reach out to me and say, "Hey, who are we hiring, Corey? Who's going to be the next head coach?" And this is like a 4-star Florida commit. And I told them, I said, "Hey, man, like, have you heard anything from the staff or like anything to be, hey, be prepared. This might happen." They're like, "No, we're in the dark. We're not even talking about it." And that's the thing too. Like another thing too, man. I mean, when you talk to them, a lot of them like Napier. I mean, they praise him. They like him as a person. And a lot of them will say, I mean, Carson Baker's another one. A lot of these kids want to see Napier stay, believe it or not. I think they just like the person he is, the culture he's instilling in. I think like a lot of these kids do. They look like, hey, we're almost there. Like you hear recruiting all the time. It's going to be our class that puts Florida over the top. You hear it every year. Like we're the class that's going to change everything. But after 4 years and seeing the overall record, I mean, there's no proof to that. I thought this year could have been the year they really, but you know, obviously they just hit ever since the USF game, and I think the DJ Lagway inconsistency. You saw it a little bit in Texas with Dallas Wilson coming back. I think you almost wish if he was around earlier in the season, maybe they would have had a little bit more spark on offense, and maybe one of those games would have went their way. So I think that's the other thing too. I mean, after all these games, after the A&M game, a lot of these kids always keep saying to me, like Chancellor Campbell, saying like, hey, like they always bounce back. They always do. CJ Hester is another one, Caden Hall. They're just kind of, hey, like they still have optimism and thinking that Florida can turn around this year. But I just don't think there's enough time, man. It's just one of those things. They love Billy. They love the type of person he is. But it's kind of like, it's just the elephant in the room, man. It'd be a shocker if Florida didn't make a move. And I think if they didn't make the move, you would hear it from this fan base on another level. So I just think it's sooner than later. And I think a lot of them, like I said, I mean, if they kept Napier, I think you saw last year when they announced that Napier was coming back, like you and I talked about this last cycle, it was one of the wildest finishes to a recruiting class I've ever seen in 15 years. I mean, they got so many big-time kids. So that shows what type of coach they think Napier is.
Yeah.
But after this year, I just think, too, if you get Lane Kiffin, you can keep most of that class together. I just think he's one of those guys that if you can get him in the fold, I think the portal, you're probably going to get some top guys out of the portal. Yeah. You're probably going to keep a lot of these kids in the class as long as the timing works out. But, yeah, it sucks. A lot of these kids love Napier, but it is what it is, man. It's football. It's a business.
Do you feel that we'll have a sort of reaction similar to what Penn State had and the other schools that lost their coach from guys decommitting? Is that just par for the course?
Yeah, I think 100%. Penn State had a lot of decommitments, man. I mean, they were hurting that first 24 hours. I think – yeah, probably, man. I mean, there's guys that come to mind. I think like Carson Baker's one. I know he's solid with Florida, but, you know, Florida State, South Carolina, Kentucky, schools are lurking. Like Hezzy Kent, the tight end. I mean, you got to look at some of the guys on Instagram that still post graphics from other schools. Okay. There's about a handful of Florida's class right now that I could see kind of going elsewhere once they do announce that Napier's fired. But I still think at the same time, man, I wouldn't be surprised, like, you know, if a good amount just kind of hold off a little bit to kind of get a feeling for it. Penn State was kind of – I think you saw with Penn State, like Mika Parsons, there's a lot of people that really supported Franklin. And I think you'll probably see a little bit of the same thing with Napier. A lot of people will say a lot of positive things. But, yeah, I think a lot of these kids, they'll probably – I expect probably 4 to 6 decommitments, in my opinion, like if Florida does pull the plug. I think you had to look at the out-of-state guys like a Davion Gross, a Kevin Ford. And this is just my opinion, right? Like no one's saying like, hey, I'm going to definitely decommit. But you got to look at these guys that are visiting other schools that are from out of state. they're kind of forming those backup plans right now, and just that's what it's for. You got to have a backup plan in case they fire a coach, and that's basically what this is all for. If Florida moves on, you're probably going to see some of those kids move on as well. But at the end of the day, I think the good thing with Florida is the portal era. You can obviously get a lot of those Band-Aids and kind of you bring in guys that make a sooner impact than these recruits anyway. So I think they'll be fine.
And you could the portal's now changed, so you can't swing back around as early as you could before. But yeah, look, I mean, it's par for the course. Like these things, a lot of this stuff, like a fan base, you can't be surprised. You have to brace for it, understand. Like, look, when you cheer for something or want something like this major to happen, there's gonna be major reaction that happens to that as well. So it's expected. I'm not gonna be surprised. It's gonna be a crazy 2 months, and it's probably gonna be a busy week for you next week, and we'll be having plenty to go over. But Corey, I really appreciate you, man. I know we had some issues early on, but this has been awesome. Glad we were able to chit chat. I'm sure I'll see you in about a couple of weeks or so. Maybe we'll have a historic class. Maybe something crazy happens and we're able to get close strong. The other thing too, they moved the signing date, which I liked. But now if you're in the world of changing coaches, it's not as appealing anymore because there's like a week between the end of the year and the signing day, which before there was 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, no, and that's the tough part. I just think overall, when you look at Florida's situation, that's the most difficult part. I think, like you said, when we talked about like Lane Kiffin, I think obviously getting him in the fold, obviously a lot of kids would love that and stay, but at the same time, with how their season's going and just the timing of sign day, it can go either way. And that's the difficult part, I mean, with any coaching change. So I guess we'll just see how that plays out. But I think overall with the portal, that Florida will be fine. I think they're going to do well in the portal no matter who the head coach is. And I think either way, those are the guys who are going to see the field much sooner than a lot of these top high school recruits anyway. So, I mean, you can't keep them all, man. But at the end of the day, I think Florida will be just fine.
Tell them where they can keep up with you, man, and stay in touch, in tune with everything when everything goes a certain way next week, if it does.
Yeah, man. No, it's simple as Gators Online, man. You can join for $1 right now. Obviously, Corey_Bender is my Twitter account, man. So always pumping out stuff, man. Recruiting never stops, even in these dark days in Gainesville. I know tomorrow – with Recruit Reaction, Blake and I are talking about it. It's a weird thing, man, because even if Florida wins, it's like there's only so much you can really say because it's like he could get let go after a win. So it's a weird time right now, but I feel like the lights at the end of the tunnel. I think we'll have a little bit more clarity, hopefully, in the next couple of days.
No doubt. I know those forums are hot right now on the Gators Online. So if anything, you can get plenty of tea there if you need it. So
they're more hot because they think I'm a huge Drinkwitz fan. So that's like where most of the heat is right now. I'm getting a lot of heat for the drink. I have a thread there, my top 3 candidates, and yeah, I mean that's one. So that's the big topic right now.
Get the paint. That's it. Just stand on it. No big deal.
Oh well, that's what I tell people. I said, dude, I'm never gonna post anything just because what people want to hear. I'm just gonna give my candidates and. I haven't put Franklin on there, not now, but I'm saying a couple weeks ago, he probably would have been on my short list too. But it is what it is, man. It's college football. It'll be fun, though. It'll be fun to track either way.
Yeah, I like Drink too. He's not my first option, but it's not a horrible fallback plan. I've said that. I like his quirkiness too, personally. But
no, he's like it's like candidate CD, like kind of backup plan. I mean, you got to have those guys no matter what. You got to have those conversations. But I think for everyone's sake, I think. Hopefully, Lane Kiffin's the guy. Well, I guess we'll definitely see, though, here hopefully soon.
All aboard, baby. All aboard. All right, man. Corey, I appreciate you, man. Go Gators, and we'll be in touch, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, brother. Have a good night, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, too. Ladies and gentlemen, Corey Bender there from Gators Online and On 3. A lot of great stuff. Again, phenomenal conversation there. I think it's just interesting to see how this all navigated, and I think getting that information from the recruits of them like, yeah, we want Lane is promising. I would hope, I would think, that's a good thing. I don't know. A couple of super chats here. Then we'll talk back about the Lane stuff since I messed up in the beginning of the last show. I still want to talk about it. I mean, we kind of got through it, but some of you maybe missed it, and some of you may have to hear it again, and that's fine. The first rendition is always the best, but it is what it is. Ira Jones, $5. If by chance we don't screw it up and get Lane, is there a chance he keeps Billy Gonzalez and some of the other good assistants? I don't think so, to be quite honest with you. And I could be wrong. Billy Gonzalez is kind of a veteran, an OG that you could see being kept. Luke's a great running back coach that I could see being kept. Outside of that, let him go. I wouldn't mind keeping Ron. Ron's done great things. But I honestly, the coaching assistants is the least thing that I'm worried about. I'd rather keep players than coaches, which they affect those things. But look, Billy's been around for a long time. He's a professional. So that is one I could probably see staying more than others. Drink winning 10 a year at Mizzou, at UF, he wins big. Look, I think that's the big thing, right? Like, people kind of hating on Drink. Drink is in a similar situation as Lane and Ole Miss. I mean, he's been successful at Mizzou. He hasn't got over the hump. Lane's been successful at Ole Miss. He just hasn't got over the hump. And I think Lane's done a good job of making Ole Miss a targetable place, to go play. I think he's done that same thing for Mizzou. They're very similar. Honestly, I would say that Lane has a bigger and better resume, but I could be wrong there. I wouldn't say maybe it's bigger for sure of being in this world. But I like that Drink recognized, hey, I can't call plays, and made adjustments and did those things. And he's recruited some big-time dogs. Lane hasn't recruited big-time dogs to Ole Miss. He's dabbled in the portal very well, but hasn't recruited the same way as Drink has. So there's that to think about. There is that to think about. So what we were talking about before, obviously, that we kind of got cut off, was Ole Miss is discussing extending Lane Kiffin. That's the big aha that came from On 3, and that Jimmy Sexton is looking to make him the highest paid coach in college football. And that's kind of what we were really diving into, is like, this is the market that Florida has to be willing to tip their toe in, is to be paying a coach the highest paid coach, which would put him over 3 national championship coaches. But mind you, Kurt Zinghetti just moved himself to number 3 with way less data to support that he should be the 3rd highest paying coach. But Indiana was in a great place. They weren't 4 and 5 coaches deep of buyout money. This is their Gusto. This is their Jimbo Fisher. Like, we're good. We've never been done with it. Let's go be done for a little bit. And there was a reason we could be done. We've got some firepower behind it finally being done. So there's that. Like, they're in a good place to do that. Is Florida willing to do that? And that's what scares me. And you just heard Corey say, like, you can't just tiptoe around. It's got to be. I mean, there's 2 options for you. Because even if you go and get a Drink or a Kenny, or who are the other names even passed around? Matt Campbell, maybe not as much, but a James Franklin. All those guys know their market, know where Florida's at, and know that, hey, I know you were going to pay, so-and-so is asking for this. I may not be that, but I'm going to be just right underneath it. And are those guys going to be worth just right underneath it? I don't know. If Indiana can pay, Ole Miss can pay. The one thing that we have going for us for the Ole Miss, and I talked about this, is that the state contracts keep things at bay. They keep things close and tight, where the contracts can't get too outrageous, if you will. And don't forget, I said this earlier in the before show, I'm just going to repeat myself a little bit here. Lane signed an extension last year. Okay? Don't forget that. An extension last year. So that extension, even with it only being last year, still has a buyout of $4 million. So I wouldn't be too panicked if I see Ole Miss getting an extension done. That might just be what Jimmy Sexton and the boys use for more leverage to go elsewhere. The buyout's what's going to be important. Because Florida's going to have to pay regardless. It's the extra money. Buyout money is free money. Buyout money is scratch-off money. Like, it's throwaway money. Like, you don't even feel like you're doing anything with it. It's the add-ons that the dealerships throw into you. Just like, damn, I'm stuck with it, right? If you're paying $15 million to pay this guy to be the number 1 player, that's just the name of the game. You're going to be in that world regardless, but at least you're getting you're getting money out of it. When you're going to pay that $4 million, or if that buyout goes to 6-7, that's where it gets a little bit more dicey. It's like the burn money just got more expensive. And that's what I would keep an eye on. Jimmy Sexton's a smart man. And here's what makes me, and look, let's put some tea leaves, boys. Let's put some theories together. Let's do what we do best. We've been talking about it so dang much. And it makes it good. That's why you got to talk about it. Keeps it healthy. Keeps it fresh. The sources, Ole Miss sources, said that Jimmy Sexton wants to make Ole Miss the highest paid coach. Jimmy Sexton represents Billy Napier. I don't know legally what he's allowed or not say, but I can assure you he's utilizing what's happening in Gainesville to his leverage. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but my point of it is that I can only imagine Sexton's like, hey, My other client's gone. My other client that happens to work here in Ole Miss is wanted at said place. So you got some work to do because this is their number, and he'd rather go there. So you got to do something iconic to keep him locked. Good luck. You have my number. I'm out. Sexton out. I got some more colleges to go rip off. I'll see you on the other side, boys. So that's what we got rocking and rolling here with all that. It's going to be an absolute blast to keep an eye on. We've talked about it plenty. But really, what concerns me is Florida going to be willing to dial it in? Justin Malley, Fire Hoodie, thank you, man. HighTopSport.com/shop. All right, we got the patch on there. All right, got the hats. The boys merch game getting fire. I got another hoodie up too. They're a little hefty, but it's bro. This thing, I'm getting 90 of them. I'm gonna do multiple variations of this hoodie. This is my by far top tier hoodie I've ever put together. So very excited for this. Couple more super chats. Let's see here. Ira, $5. I just hope they don't feel like James Franklin is a good hire. I feel like why they think, well, James Franklin will be a good hire. Again, the more we talk about it, the more you feel like you're involved with it, and you just feel like you kind of understand. James Franklin feels like kind of like a guy that's willing to abide by the rules, not push the envelope. We'll see. He's on game day tomorrow. That'll give me a better tell of this James Franklin and kind of how he's going to navigate, and if he's going to be a Scott Strickland guy. In a way, I feel like his value, again, he has no buyout, so there's a cheap there. And because he has recently been fired, there's a little bit of a stain. You could probably get him at a discounted rate. So you get a coach that was just playing for, one game away from a national championship last year, who's 104 and like 35 over, 10 years. It's a winning coach. Again, I think we can all agree we don't like him. I'm just putting things from a Strickland perspective, like, hey, it's a winning coach. He's not that expensive. I don't have to deal with Lane Kiffin's cocky attitude. I like this guy. We're moving with this guy. Like that's what scares me too. Fran Brown is too far. Fran Brown is just, I like Fran a lot, big fan. Just, that's a big reach. That's a big reach, personally. Guys, almost 500 people in here and not 100 likes. It'd do me a big favor, much love if you could smash that like button. Also, we talked about, I got to check the score of this Miami Cards game here. 17-13. We got a dogfight. ACC instant classic. Do a call-in show on the fly. Listen, we did a call-in show yesterday morning. It was in shambles first half. We're going to be doing a call-in show tomorrow. Listen, I can only talk to the fans so much before, we get into some deep conspiracies. All right. I love y'all to death. But also I need to get back to the wifey. So I think I had one more thing to go over, but the shambles. Oh, I love this. Dan Mullen tweets out 0.0 interest in Arkansas. Thanks for the shout out though. Y'all need to hire Gus Malzone. I mean, Dan just playing cards at this point. It's crazy to see. Look, my final thoughts. You heard Corey talked about it. We talked about it in the first part. You know what you got to do, Florida. You know what you got to do. If you want to put this logo to another stratosphere and have the boys, the content creation standpoint, well, I mean, we would be greatly appreciated. The lies that would be told, just the energy that would surround Florida football. You want to lock in a consistent sellout for another decade, you know who to get. The ball's in your court. I mean, you should be thanking your stars that things have gone the way that they're going. You're getting everything you could want. It goes by the name Lane Kiffin, all right? All aboard! But we got tomorrow to get through. We got some football games to go watch. And see whether or not Napier keeps or loses his job. I'm looking, listen, in a weird world. I don't know if you guys saw Wednesday's show. I talked about Billy waking up and he's still here and he tweets out that I'm not leaving meme from Wolf on Wall Street. There's a part of me cheering for that. I'm gonna be honest. I just the tweet, not anything else. I just want to see the tweet. We won't get it, but if I knew that he would guarantee me that tweet if he were to stay, I stick around to see it. All aboard. Hey, go Cards. All right. Y'all be good. Be safe. Do all the good stuff that you normally do. Live watch party tomorrow, 4:15 p.m. The logo, the throwback logos. You don't want to miss it. HighTopSport.com/shop where you can get your gear, the high top gear, the hoodie, all the good stuff. Y'all know what to do. Be good, be safe. I love y'all. Peace and love, baby.
Bulls calling bets, watch the stories unfold. And it's truly eyebrows running the show.
Appreciate you, Beck.
It's High Top Sports, baby. Let's get it, let's go.